Hello, in this video I'm going to go through creating a simple smart tree in version 2.5 of the SMARTree client and publishing this to my libraries, committing it using the Git functions right here, and then publishing it to a GitLab site. So before I get into that, I'm first going to create a tree. Now there's many ways of creating trees. You can create trees from scratch using these drop downs right here. You can right click as well and add elements, which are the basic elements right here. You can also grab snippets of other trees that you've already created. You can use templates as well. So what I'm going to do just to show you how the process of creating a tree from scratch works. So that's done. The most easy way to do it is use this first drop down here, and this is where you can add elements. So I'm going to add a header, and I can give it a name, and let's just give it a title, my header. We'll just hit add. And next I'm going to add a text, so a piece of text, and I'm just going to call it my text. And you can, this is the title for the text, and this is the actual data. So this is text data. And hit add. Next I'm going to add a value, just a simple value. And once again, it looks very similar, but here you see now we're in a value mode. So you can pick from lists. This is a pre-selection list. There's a video describing how you can define your pre-selection lists. It's actually pre-selected from other trees. I have one connected to a default tree that I have over here, you know, we can use that data or write your own. So we can just, and this is a value, so we'll just say default value is fine. We'll just make it default value, and we'll pick a value. We can make it 10, for instance. We can also change its type. We can make it a decimal, and we'll leave it as decimal. And we can also change its precision, so you can see all that's there. So you can really customize what the value looks like. We'll just hit add. So here it is. Let's add a few more things. Let's add a date. Here's a date, and we could say let's make it today. Today, and we'll call it today. And we'll add that. So now we have today. And one more, I'll just add one more, a selection. So here's a selection. Once again, I have predefined selections. So I'm going to pick one from this so I don't have to go through editing all this in here. But you can add your data right here. You can also set default data, and you can also define the logic, and we'll get into that later. So I'm just going to call it default selection. And you can pick which item you want to be the default item, the initial item, and hit add. And here we go. And you'll see it's a drop down right here. So now we have our simple tree. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do some simple functions here. I can indent and outdent. You can see here by indent and outing. I can drag and drop. I can pull elements any way I like. I can select single entities, or I can click multiple entities, like the whole thing. And you can right click here. You can hit copy, and you can paste it, paste all, and see it makes a copy. You can do that to individual elements as well. You can also add logic. So here, this is logic button. So what does that mean? So if I click a value and I say I want to assign logic to that value, what that'll do is it'll say now I have a condition. And the condition for this one, you can see over here, these buttons right here, define conditions. So in this case, I'm saying that this number must be within a certain range. I can also have it below the lowest number in my range. I can have it above, equal to, or above. So I'm going to violate this condition, so you'll see what happens. And so let's just do that. I'm going to make this number, let's say 200. So it's now greater than the maximum value here. And what you'll see now is you'll see it turn red right here. And that means this value is violating a rule. It's above the range that I've set. Okay. So in order to make that good again, I can just pick a number here, 20. And now you'll see that condition is met. And you can apply logic conditions to all of these elements, except for headers, because headers are just a placeholder. So that's what makes the tree smart. So if you want to put conditions or whatever to your data, then others can follow those conditions. So you know that the data that you're generating meets the conditions you've set. And the tree will keep an eye on things. It checks it in real time to make sure that everything's good. And it also has a hierarchy here. So if you have an issue, you know, way down here, and it's violating this condition here, you'll see if I make that 200, it tracks it all the way back up to the top. So you know from the very first header, even if it's closed, you know something's not quite right in your tree, and you can fix that. And so that's basically how that works. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to save my tree. So here's my tree, and I'm going to save it over here somewhere. So I'll put it inside my tutorials, basically. And that's very simple here. You just go into SMARTree. Here's all the functions here as well you can do to edit your tree, move things around, copy and paste. In this case, I'm just going to save my tree, and I'm going to save it in here under tutorial, and I'm going to call it my third SMARTree. So I'm going to save it. So I've got a few in there. And so now it saves it. It updates the library, and here it is. And you'll notice when you see it, it's actually in blue. And what does that mean? It means I've added this new file to my library, but I haven't added it to the repository, which is the Git repository. And what I want to do is now commit that file and publish it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my libraries tab, and it even tells you right here, you have a new file. See, untracked files. This is a file you've untracked. So the next thing you're going to do is I'm going to add it. And if you're familiar with Git, you'll know what this add does. What it does is it basically pulls up an option here in this environment to say, I want to add that file to my my staging area, if you will. And a staging area is basically where you put your files, where you're going to put them before you commit. Think of it like a runway. You've got your files lined up on the runway and you're about to commit them to the cloud. And so what I've done now is I've committed that file into the, I've added that and have it ready to commit. And so now I'm going to commit the file. When you commit the file, you typically give it a name. It's a requirement. The name generally you use to describe what you're doing. You might say like, you might have a particular project and you've got a certain set of files that you needed to add or edit, and you've done that, and you would describe that operation or that body of work as something here. So that's what you will do. In this case, this is in my SMARTree units and templates folder. So I'm going to leave this name right here for now because I was editing this also today. So I'm just going to leave the date at the end saying this is the latest snapshot of my data and under this date, and you could do that. So you hit commit. And what it's going to do now is it's going to commit that file, that new file that I just created, this file right here, the SMARTree, to the libraries. So you see now the text is now black. And what that's telling you now is that you've published, or you've basically committed that file locally. And so you'll say here now, your branch is ahead of origin master by 1. What that means is your local branch, your data on your own machine, whether you're offline or online, is ahead of the published data, which you might have on the cloud. So what the final step is, I'm going to publish that. So the way you publish that is you just hit the push button. And what that'll do is it'll push the data. So here I have what's a remote repository. This is a repository I've already connected to this library. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to push that data to the cloud. And once it's done, I can close. And then finally, I can do a simple refresh. And the refresh will just check once again to make sure everything is published and ready. And you can see here now, everything is published and online. So the final thing I can do is I can basically look at that repository and see, what the state of that repository is now that I've added that data. So let's just pull that up on a browser, and it looks something like this. And so here is my SMARTree units and templates, which is the data I just showed you. And you can see in here, if you look into my tutorial SMARTrees, you'll actually see here my third SMARTree is now published. So you've now published that for others to access, and they will get notification when they connect to this library that this file is new. So that's a nice way for you to publish to the cloud and to this. You can use GitHub or GitLab, or there's a whole host of services for publishing this data. And others, when they connect to this, will be made aware that they have new data. There's a new data available that they can then pull. So that allows them to then access that data using this service. And so that's basically how a quick process of how you create a SMARTree and how you publish to the cloud. Now, of course, I did all of this by manually, but what you can also do here is you can pull in any of these right here. You can load it. There's a wide variety of materials that you can pull from. If you're not sure where things are, you can also search for them. You can look for, say, epoxy material. So here's all my epoxies. You can just pull that in right here, and this is the tree for a material. And you can edit that, make a copy of this and add new materials and publish this back to the cloud. You can also drag pieces and description, snippets of other trees in here. There's model trees in here as well. So I could drag pieces of this tree. I can drag it right in here and organize it any way I like and publish to the cloud in the same manner. So that's a quick tutorial on how to create a SMARTree and how to publish it to the cloud. Any questions? We have a whole slew of videos describing all the sub features that I just showed today. They're on the playlist, on this YouTube playlist for SMARTree. You can look at all of those. And access to these data right here, this is all available on our GitLab site. You can download that. And below is also a link to download this particular 2.5 client. Thank you.